Hello everybody, welcome back to Cooking with Grandma, and today I've got a cookie recipe that's really easy. It's really good. You can buy these in the store, even at the dollar store. They're like $1 a package. But when you buy the cookies at the store, you're getting a whole extra batch of ingredients that you don't really need. You're getting all kind of preservatives and additives to make them stay fresher. When you bake homemade, you know exactly what's in there. Now this recipe has got flour, salt, baking powder, butter, sugar, vanilla, and eggs, and then the ingredients for frosting. You know, your confectioner sugar and some vanilla and milk. If we want to make them chocolate, cocoa powder. These are going to be sandwich cookies, like Oreos. I'm going to make a vanilla dough, but I might take, I will take half of it out and make a chocolate dough, add cocoa to it. And then the chocolate cookies will get a vanilla filling, and the vanilla cookies will get a chocolate filling. So let's get started with this super easy recipe. So we need 1½ cups of flour. There's 1½ and 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. So they're not going to rise very much. It is like 1½ cups of flour, so for 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, they're not going to rise. They might spread a little bit as they're cooking, but they're not going to rise. So we're going to give this a mix. I'm going to mix this up. I'll get all the salt and the baking powder incorporated. And we're going to set this bowl aside and switch it out, and we're going to make do the wet ingredients in here and then add it together. So for the wet ingredients, we need 3/4 of a cup of butter. And there's my oven. And these, I showed you these measuring cups my daughter gave me for Christmas, my birthday. They're like oval shaped because they fit in my canisters. I use the jars that I got at the dollar store for my sugar and flour and tea, and the regular measuring cups don't fit in it, so I wanted these oval ones forever, and I couldn't find them every time I went to the store, so she found them, and it comes with one that is 3/4 of a cup. So I've never seen that in measuring cups before. There's always a cup, a half a cup, 1/4 of a cup, 1/8 of a cup, that kind of thing. But I've never known 3/4 of a cup. So that makes it really cool. So instead of using the 1/4 measuring cup, filling it 3 times, or just filling the 1 cup, 1 up, almost full, this way you're getting a totally accurate measure. So 3/4 of a cup of softened butter. Again, I don't use butter, I use margarine. If you want to use butter, go right ahead. It doesn't matter. It's a little on the pricey side, and for flavor wise, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make it any, the taste is the same. To me it is, anyway. A lot of people think butter is better for baking. I don't know. Okay, so to that we're going to add 1¼ cups of sugar. And again, that's not a wet ingredient, but because you have to mix the butter and the sugar together, it's considered a wet ingredient. So measure this out. This one was a little too full for my scoop to fit in there without spilling it all over the place. So 1 1/4. And I've got a 1/4 measuring spoon here. 1 1/4. And then you're going to use a teaspoon of vanilla. The ingredients are simple. It's something that you probably have in your pantry. They're not ingredients that are expensive or that you have to go out and spend a lot on just to have. If you buy all this stuff, like I buy these big jars of vanilla, it's 500 mils. I mean, that lasts a very long time. And then, get your baking powder, baking soda, salt, pepper, well, not pepper. Buy it all ahead of time, and, it's all good. So now I'm going to put my 2 eggs in. In they go. Give that a good mix. You want it nice and creamy. That's what's nice with the butter is soft. You don't want to take it right out of your fridge and do it, because in this way it's going to get nice and blended up real quick and mixed up. You don't even need a mixer. I just got this recipe on the internet, and it's, you know, there's so many variations. They basically all are similar, but, you know, there's just a little difference in the amounts or whatever here and there. This one was the easiest, that's why I picked it. Tell you the truth. So there, that's it. And then you add your dry ingredients into the wet, and we mix that up. Get that bowl out of the way. And now it does say to use a scoop, a cookie scoop. I still haven't bought those. I mean, they're like little mini ice cream scoops, but I can just use spoons, teaspoons or tablespoons, and it'll do the same thing for me, you know, to spend the money on something that I would probably forget that was in the drawer. So now I do need that bowl back, don't I? I have to add, make some of this chocolate. And you have to have these in an even number. So if you're making a dozen cookies, you have to have 6 for one half and 6 for the other, and they're very soft. It's a very soft dough. So we'll see how that works out. But you just remember that whatever you're making, you want an even number, because you have to have a top and a bottom. So I'm going to take, I don't know if it'll be exactly half, but I'm going to take out what looks like half. And it looks about the same. And I'm going to put a tablespoon of cocoa powder in 1/2. Nice big heaping tablespoon of cocoa powder. So then this way it's going to be chocolate flavored. And that's the same thing for the frosting. You make the frosting filling like you would just normal vanilla frosting, and then you add cocoa powder if you want to make a chocolate frosting. There we go. So now we have chocolate and vanilla, and I'm going to drop these by teaspoonfuls. It says to use a small scoop, so I don't know if a small scoop is equal to teaspoons or tablespoons, but I'm going to see what happens when I do. I think actually, no, I think probably a tablespoon would be better. I think teaspoon might make them too small, so we'll use a tablespoon. I'll take the chocolate ones. I've got my trays here with the Silpat. You can buy these. I got these also for Christmas, my birthday, and you could buy parchment paper. You can just grease them. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just gonna wipe up that little big blob of butter there, and it just makes cleanup a breeze. You just take this off, and the cookies don't stick, and it's so much easier. So we're just gonna nice little circles. And you can do this again, like I say, you can buy the cookie scoops, but if you do it rounded like this, if you put it, get up there, if you put it on a nice rounded spoonful and just push it off, it makes a nice little mound, and that'll give you a nice, and you want them all to be about the same size, because they have to match. They have to, tops and bottoms have to match, otherwise you'll have, you know, extra cookie. It's like when you have a hamburger and you bite into it and the bun slides. You got a nice burger, but you don't have enough bun. So you want these guys to be, you know, I'm just going around with a spoon to make it so it's nice and circle, so it bakes that way. So there's 2, 4, 6, so that's 3 cookies basically. So let's see. This recipe is supposed to get 2 dozen cookies. So let me see if I can get 2 dozen. And again, when that's just a you know, you go by that, but it's, you can't always judge by that, because that is just, that depends on how big you make your cookies. Sometimes if you make them smaller, then obviously you're going to get more. If you make them giant cookies, then you'll get a lot less. Same thing with your sugar cookies, when you're rolling out sugar cookies. It depends on the cookie cutters that you're using. I have some cookie cutters that are really, really big, and you don't get nearly as many cookies. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12, so that's enough for 6 cookies. That's 12, so there we go. So I'm going to put these in the oven. This cookie sheet is very large, and I can't fit 2 in my oven on the top shelf this long ways because they're just too long. So I have to put 1 in at a time. Right in there, and it says 10 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 7 and see what happens, because you know, you can always add some time, but you don't want to take the time away. You can't take time away. If it's too long, it's going to burn. Okay, I got 12 of those, so let's see if I'm going to get 12 of these chocolate ones. This is the test if I evened out the dough enough. We'll just do the same thing. Nice little circles. Perfect. Round little mounds. You could eat these cookies just like this. You wouldn't have to make them into sandwich cookies if you don't want to. This recipe would be just to have a nice chocolate and or vanilla cookie. And it would be just as good. I haven't made sandwich cookies in quite a while, so I thought, well, you know, I'll give it a try and see what happens. Okay, let's see, 3, 6, 9. It's going to be close. There's a pinch more of the vanilla dough, so if I don't have enough, I'll just mix that in. I think I'm going to go ahead and steal this. There's just like a spoonful of the vanilla dough left over that it would have been enough for 1 cookie, and not enough room it would have been an even number. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that into the little bit of chocolate dough I have left, because I need 2 more to make the dozen. And there we go. Perfect. So there we go, I got 2 dozen. Now I don't know, see, when they said it makes 2 dozen, now this is 2 dozen, but in reality, if you're making them sandwich cookies, it's 1 dozen, because you need 2 cookies per sandwich cookie. So I don't know if I should have gotten 4 dozen like this, and then split them up to make the 2, but I got 2 dozen, so there we go. That's it. So now while that is doing, let me get another bowl here, and we'll make the filling, make the frosting. So for the frosting, it calls for 1½ cups of confectioner's sugar, and it just says milk. It doesn't give an amount. You just put it in a little bit at a time. I will try to measure it out for you so I can, you know, get an idea of how much you should put in there, because it's probably going to be like a tablespoon or something, because you want it fairly thick. You don't want it to be runny. You're not, you know, you want it thicker than you would for icing a cake, but whoops, oh dear, there's a bag of sugar. You want it not as thick as you would for icing a cake, but you don't want it runny so it oozes out the sides of the cookie. So when I make different birthday cakes and stuff, instead of using fondant, I take my frosting sugar here, my confectioner sugar, icing sugar, whatever you want to call it. I make it real thick and make my flowers or my decorations or whatever it is I need out of icing. Now when my son's birthday, his birthday was in February, and he had a quarantine birthday cake. I made him a roll of toilet paper because that was in high demand at that time. You know, everybody was fighting, literally knockdown fighting in the grocery stores for toilet paper. So I made the cake and I frosted it, and out of the very thick frosting, I made a mask and a bottle of Purell. So that's what his birthday cake is. And I can't tell you what I'm making for my daughter's birthday. I will be using the thickened frosting, but I can't say because she watches my videos and her birthday is next week. So I can't say what I'm making her until my next video, then I can tell you. I don't make my kids plain cakes. They all, even though they're not children, they're grown-ups, but for my grandkids, I make shape cakes. I've done a gazillion cakes. I've made, I don't even know how many. I made Lightning McQueen, a shark, a fish tank. I made a teapot with a cup of tea and a book for my daughter, my oldest, because she loves tea and she loves to read. Now that was 2 tablespoons of butter, just to get off topic here a minute, and it's a little bit, it's not bad, it's a little bit too thin. I was thinking when they said 1.5 cups of frosting sugar, that's an awful lot of sugar, but once you put that liquid in it, so I am going to add just a little more powdered sugar, because I want it a little bit thicker. I want it to be just to spread. It really doesn't seem like there's a lot here, but you just need a little bit on a knife. I mean, they're going to be small cookies. There, that's looking better. So yeah, I've made a Lego cake, and I've made all my kids and all my grandkids on their birthdays, on their very first birthday, they got a rockin' horse cake. That was what we had when we were growing up, so I continued the tradition on with my kids. And then after that, I just said, what do you want for what kind of cake? Sometimes I ask them, and sometimes I just surprise them. Now that my children are all grown, they get a surprise. I don't ask them. So for my son's girlfriend, I made her a window box that looked like a window box with sunflowers. And I made my son a barn, because they live on the farm. There, this is what you want. This is about the consistency that you want. It's nice and spreadable, but it's not too runny. And I made, well, my grandson asked for a shark about 2 or 3 times. I've done a shark, kind of different variations. I've done a dump truck, a choo-choo train, you know, I did a butterfly, a swan, yeah, Mario, pretty much anything you think of. There's one site that's called Coolest Birthday Cakes Ever, and if you go on that site, it's home cooks basically. It's not professionals, and you can type in the type of cake you want, and you know they'll be there. And I watch 2 or 3 different types, and sometimes I combine one idea out of one and one idea out of the other, and that's where I get my ideas from if I can't think of them. So let me check that. Oh boy, they said they were supposed to spread a little bit. These spread a lot. Okay, so it will need a few more minutes. So it was 7 minutes, so I'm going to give it the extra 3 because they really spread. It said they were spread a little. That was a lot. They're very big, and they're very, so they're just a little bigger than I planned, so that's okay. It's good. We'll make them work. So actually what I want to do with this frosting, while that's going, I'm going to take a little bit of this out, and I want it, as it sits too, it gets a little bit thicker, but I'm going to take a couple of spoonfuls out because, like I said, the chocolate cookies are going to get a vanilla filling, and the vanilla cookies are going to get a chocolate filling. So I'll take out almost even amounts. I mean, if I don't have enough of one, I can just always make a little bit more. It takes like 10 seconds, you know, nothing. Shouldn't use that spoon. I'm going to put a teaspoon of cocoa powder in there just to see if that's enough. Because it's not that much, plenty. And you have to remember too, because you're adding the powder, so it's going to thicken it up a little bit more. So the chocolate might have to have just a drop. Yeah, definitely have to have just a little. Well, let me see if I can get a knife and if it looks like it'll spread. No, that might be fine. You know what, I think I'm going to thicken up the vanilla because I like the consistency of the chocolate better. It looks like it's going to spread a whole lot better. So I do believe I am going to thicken the vanilla up just a little. I'm just going to add just a titch of. So when you make these cookies at home, if you try this recipe, you know, just add a little at a time. A little bit of, you start off with 1.5 cups, and then add a, tiny bit of milk. I added 2 tablespoons, it was too much. So I add a tablespoon, and then if that's not enough, like a teaspoon or half a teaspoon more, because I want it to be where it's, yeah, more spreadable. That looks better. It's not, I don't think it's quite as thick as the chocolate dough, but it's all right. It's a knife out, and let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. Because you want to spread that into the, spread it. Now my timer's about to go off again. We have 30 seconds. You have to let these cool for a couple minutes, obviously. If you put, frosting on something hot, it's going to melt the frosting right away. So just let them cool for a couple of minutes while the chocolate ones are baking, and then we will fill them. But I am a little bit disappointed how flat they came out, because if I'd have known they were coming out, they would have spread that much. I would have done it in teaspoonfuls rather than tablespoonfuls, and made them a little bit smaller to start with, and then they would have spread to just a nice and normal size. And these did, as you can see, they did spread a lot. Yeah, they're done. They're nice and springy, nice and soft. So I'm just going to go ahead. I was going to take a spoonful off of each of these chocolate ones and make them smaller, but because the vanilla ones are that small, I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to give them the 10 minutes that it calls for. And these guys, I mean, they're all the same size. They're nice, but and they come off the cookie sheet very nicely, so that's good. They're going to keep their shape. So I'll let those cool for like 5 minutes. I want them cold, so when they get frosted. I think I will put them on my cooling tray here. Oh, screech. I will go ahead and take them out of the pan, because they'll cool a lot quicker if they're on the cooling rack. But a nice wire rack like these, you can buy these anywhere. I think I got this one at the dollar store. Dollarama was like $3.50. So you take them off, and because it's lifted off the ground, A, it's not on the hot tray, and B, it's lifted off, and with the holes in it, the air circulates, so they cool. Everything cools a lot quicker. So I will take these off, put them on there, and they will be ready to fill a lot sooner if I would leave them on my baking sheet. I mean, they look like they're nice soft cookies. They're not going to be, I think if they were smaller, they might have had a little bit of a crunchier texture, kind of like a sandwich cookie that you buy in the store, like an Oreo or something. So they might have been a little bit not as soft on the top, but it's okay. First time I've done this recipe. I had one for sandwich cookies. Actually, what I had made, now thinking back, I made sandwich cookies that were peanut butter sandwich cookies, which is, I just made my basic peanut butter cookie dough and the frosting and filled them. So they do get a little bit of a crunch to it, and I did make them with my sugar cookie recipe. I just rolled and cut out circles. So again, they were a little bit soft on the inside and not hard, but a little crunchy kind of texture on the outside. So we're going to see, these are more like a little cake cookie. So we're going to see the difference. And these are they're cooling very nicely. So I will come back in about 5 minutes after these have cooled, and I'll show you how to put them together. And by then, our chocolate ones will be ready at the same time. So I will come right back. Okay, so my cookies have cooled. My chocolate ones are out of the oven, and they are cooling. So I'm going to put chocolate frosting in the vanilla cookies and vanilla frosting in the chocolate cookies. And I did have to add just a drop more of milk into my chocolate frosting, because as it sat, it got a little more solid. And these are very soft cookies, so I didn't want it to, it would have broke the cookie. I just tried one and it was too hard. So there you go. You just put a layer of the frosting, thick or as thin as you want it, and then take a cookie that is like the same size, put it on there, and there you go. Chocolate and vanilla sandwich cookies. Easy peasy. It was very easy. The recipe was very easy. Not a lot of ingredients, like I said, and you know, you don't have to even frost these inside if you don't want to. If you don't want to make them sandwich cookies, then just make them nice chocolate and or vanilla cookies. It doesn't matter. So that's what's fun about cooking and baking. You can switch it up. You can make it one thing, and if you don't want to make it one thing, make it something else. Just leave it plain. Make it a little bit more fancy. Whatever way you want to do it. I think I'm going to just enough. Again, if you don't have enough, like I went by what the recipe called for and split it in half to make half chocolate and half vanilla. If you don't have enough, it's easy enough to make another batch of frosting, but I will have enough because I only have one more chocolate cookie to go. Depending on how thick you want it. I know if I wanted this a little thicker and a little more of a filling, then I would have had to make some more. But I mean, I don't want to overdo it either. You want to be able to taste it, but you don't want it so thick that it gooshes out the side. You want a nice solid coverage like that. I'm going to cover the whole inside of the cookie. All the way to the edge, because it's not going to, it's thick enough where it won't leak out, where it's when you bite it. And then put your mate on top of it, the cookie that's the same size or very close. So there you go. In like 5 minutes, I made 6 vanilla cookies, sandwich cookies. And again, if next time I make this recipe, I will use a teaspoon instead of a tablespoon, and that way I think I'll get double the amount, because it said they spread a little bit, but these spread a lot. So if they were smaller to begin with, they would have, and then they would have spread, it would have been about the size of like an Oreo or vanilla cream. When I was working at the Dollarama, I would buy the chocolate and, oops, oh no, that's, I did it right, I thought I did this backwards. I would buy, and there's the chocolate, I would buy a, every so often I'd buy a bag of cookies, especially in the summer when you don't want your oven on. And I mean, for $1, and you get like 24 cookies. We had one package that was all chocolate, and we had one package that was vanilla, and there was one that was half and half chocolate and half vanilla. And you know, just for an extra little treat to have cookies when the kids are over, or the big kids, you know, doesn't matter. You want milk and cookies or tea and cookies, and for $1. But I mean, they're this easy to make, and you're not getting all the additives and the preservatives and the muck in there, just so they're nice and basic ingredients. And yeah, so they're easy to do. It's just in the summertime, it's so hot sometimes, and you don't want all that, you don't want your oven on. You don't want to heat up your kitchen. If you have central air in your house, then I mean, that's okay. We don't. We rely on a little window air conditioner or a fan, and that would not be enough to cool our kitchen down. If I had the oven on for a couple hours baking, you know, for the day, like I would make me a couple of batches of cookies and some muffins and, you know, banana bread, banana cake, whatever. When I do bake, I usually bake a few things at once instead of just a couple dozen cookies, because that's not going to last very long. So, I mean, I just bake 2 or 3 different things all at once, and then package them up and give them to my kids and say, here, you take a batch home, and you take a batch home. I mail them off to my little sweeties in Mississauga, my little pickle and nader potato. And sometimes we'll do a little drive. Right now, of course, with COVID, you can't go and visit, so, you know. And there, I'm done, and I had just enough frosting. So now we have chocolate sandwich cookies with a vanilla cream filling, and vanilla sandwich cookies with a chocolate cream filling. And it's just, you can see the vanilla, it's not really oozing out, but it's, you know, got a little bit coming. But that's okay, it's not going to go anywhere, it's thick enough. And then you can see a little edges where the chocolate is looking out. So I hope you all enjoyed this recipe. Try it. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it worked out for you. And hit the like button so you know when I'm in my kitchen again. Subscribe if you haven't. Let me know in the comments what you think of this and anything else I've made, and anything you'd like to see me bake, whether sweet or savory. And if I don't have the recipe in my huge assortment of recipes that I have, I can get it for you. It's no big deal. You know, the internet's a vast place. You can get recipes for anything on the internet, whether it's a YouTube video or my go-to is allrecipes.com. Pretty much can find anything at all there. That's an amazing site. It's got, you know, appetizers and main dishes and side dishes and meat dishes and whatever, baked goods, whatever you want. So yeah, I can get the recipes I want. Anything you want to see me bake, let me know and I can get them. So in the meantime, everybody stay safe, stay home if you can, and be kind to each other. Have a good day now. Bye-bye.